If depth is something we enter, how can it be something we can never step outside of? This question exposes a subtle contradiction in how depth is usually understood. In modern thinking, depth is treated as an inner layer reached through effort, reflection, or intense experience. Thinking is described as shallow or deep, as if one moves along a spectrum toward something more profound. Yet this picture breaks down under closer examination. No matter how far one goes, psychologically, intellectually, or spiritually, experience is always occurring from within. There is no external vantage point from which experience itself could be measured. You cannot step outside experience in order to evaluate how deep it is. This forces a reconsideration of the basic assumption. Is depth a place that one reaches through effort, or is it a condition that one is already within? According to Ibn Arabi, existence itself is depth. Depth is not something you enter. It is the ground you cannot exit because there is no outside of being. Many people describe modern life as superficial. They report feelings of disconnection, lack of meaning, and the sense that life is being lived only on the surface. In response, there is a strong desire to go deeper through techniques, experiences, identities, or spiritual practices. Depth becomes something to be acquired. Psychology helps explain why this assumption is so persistent. Through narrative self-construction, identity is built from roles, stories, and external markers. Attention bias reinforces focus on the content of experience, thoughts, emotions, events, rather than on the structure in which experience occurs. Cognitive externalization further pushes meaning outward, treating depth as something located elsewhere. The problem is not a lack of depth, but a misinterpretation of what depth is. Ordinary awareness is dismissed as shallow, while depth is treated as a special achievement. The result is chronic dissatisfaction and endless searching for deeper states. This entire framework is challenged by redefining depth not as a level within experience, but as the nature of experience itself. The analysis begins with a simple but radical claim. Being has no surface outside itself. Objects appear in depth. Thoughts, emotions, sensations, and identities arise within it. Depth itself, however, never appears as an object. It cannot be seen, measured, or compared because it is the condition that allows seeing and measuring to occur. Modern thought often treats depth as psychological intensity, stronger emotion, richer meaning, greater insight. Here, depth is treated as an ontological condition. You cannot step outside depth because there is no outside of being. Depth is not reached at a later stage of understanding. It is presupposed by every stage of experience, including confusion and doubt. The first implication of this view is straightforward. Every experience already unfolds within depth. To experience anything at all is to already be within. There is no preliminary state in which one is outside depth and later enters it. Cognitive science offers a useful parallel through the field model of consciousness. Experiences arise within a unified field of awareness rather than as isolated events. Thoughts vary in complexity, emotion fluctuates, perception shifts, but the experiential field itself remains constant. A simple example illustrates this. You may have simple thoughts and complex thoughts, mundane concerns and abstract reflections. The content differs, but all of it arises within the same experiential field. Nothing about complexity changes the fact of being aware. The insight is precise, shallow, and deep. Describe the content of experience, not its location. Depth does not increase or decrease. It is constant. What changes is only what appears within it. A central confusion arises when depth is treated as something to be observed. People search for it in sensations, emotions, or mental states. But depth cannot be seen, because it is what sees. Awareness can observe thoughts, emotions, and perceptions, but it cannot fully objectify itself. Awareness is transparent. You see through it, not at it. You can analyze thoughts endlessly. You can examine emotions, beliefs, and memories. But you cannot step outside awareness to observe awareness analyzing them. The attempt collapses into itself. The takeaway is structural, not mystical. Depth is not hidden behind experience. It is too immediate to be. Objectified. It is missed not because it is distant, but because it is always already present from here. A common spiritual error becomes clear. Depth is assumed to be achieved through effort. More discipline, more reflection, more intensity are expected to lead downward into greater depth. But movement occurs within depth, not toward it. Psychological effort can change experience, mood, insight, focus, but it cannot change the condition in which experience occurs. Goal-directed thinking works for external tasks, but fails when applied to existential understanding. Searching for meaning as if it were a location only reinforces the sense that it is. Absent effort can refine experience. It cannot produce depth. Depth remains invariant, regardless of how experience shifts. The mistake lies in treating depth as an outcome rather than a condition. Another source of confusion arises. When depth is equated with identity, depth is associated with personality traits, emotional complexity, sensitivity, introspection, or intellectual sophistication, but identity arises within depth. It does not define it. Personality traits, roles, and narratives change over time. Awareness does not. A person may become more reflective or less so, emotionally expressive or reserved, intellectually engaged or disengaged. These changes affect identity, not depth. The insight is precise. Depth is not who you are. It is what allows who you are to appear. Confusing the two leads to endless attempts to become deeper rather than recognizing what already contains becoming itself. At this point, the paradox becomes clear. If depth is unavoidable, why does it feel elusive? What has no outside cannot be contrasted. Depth cannot be confirmed by comparison, because there is nothing outside it to compare against. Depth is not one layer among others. It is not hidden beneath the surface. It is the condition in which surface and depth distinctions arise. You cannot step outside depth to verify it. Its certainty is immediate, not comparative. It does not need confirmation because it is the condition of all confirmation. When this is translated into practical terms, the orientation shifts. Instead of seeking depth, attention turns to recognizing structure. Instead of asking how to go deeper, attention moves to what is already containing experience. This reduces existential anxiety. When depth is no longer treated as missing, striving decreases and stability increases. Emotions are experienced without the pressure to justify them. Meaning is not hunted. It is recognized as already present in experience itself. The guiding question changes. How do I go deeper becomes what is already containing this experience. Recognition replaces striving. The central insight is now clear. Depth is not something you enter, it is something you cannot exit. Nothing new is acquired. What changes is interpretation, not reality. You do not move into depth. Depth is what makes movement possible.